You ever seen him do this shit for anyone else, man? Crazy. Reuters on Sui Watch. I'm surprised there are any left. Israel has bombed Beirut, thereby stalling the very real memorandum of understanding that Iran and America were set to sign. Yeah, boring.
All right, we're going to return now to our story out of Lebanon. Israel has just carried out strikes on Beirut's southern suburbs. We're going to go live to our correspondent Heidi Pitt.
It gets to a point where I genuinely don't even know if it's Israel trying everything in their power to prolong the war and delay talks with Iran, or if it's Trump and Netanyahu both being like, all right, here's our new plan to short the market, you know? Or sorry, to rug pull the market. Here's our new plan to pump and dump. It's impossible to know.
In Beirut for us, Heidi, what more can you tell us?
So we've had confirmation from the Israeli military that they've carried out what they characterized as a precision strike on Beirut's southern suburbs, the area collectively known as Dahia, to the south of the capital. And the reason that that is significant is because Iran had previously drawn a red line over strikes on the capital here in Beirut. And in fact, when that happened a week ago, they responded with missile fire at Israel, touching off another round.
Barack Ravid article incoming. Let's check the front page of Axios. Yep. How are Barack Ravid's stock trades doing? Why don't more people call out Axios? A lot of people do in independent media, but mainstream media will never, because if mainstream media acknowledges that a major publication has just been shamelessly laundering the lies of the White House for months in order to facilitate rug pulls from the administration, it would undermine people's... I won't say it'll undermine people's trust in mainstream media because people don't have any anyway. I guess it's more like the whole thing is a joke and they don't want to like point out how much of a joke it is. They don't want to spend... It's the same reason why if you go to CNN, some of the commentators will be like, yeah, Trump literally keeps saying the war is almost over. But other commentators are like, could this be it? Is the war finally over? Like they can't like reconcile with the true nature of things. Trump said he was shocked when his advisors called him to brief him about the Israeli strike in Beirut, and he fumed at Benjamin Netanyahu. It's so bad, I couldn't believe it. An hour before we were supposed to sign the deal. Who believes this shit, man? It's so it's so fucking it's not just that it's fake, it's like uncredibly fake. Trump doesn't talk like this. Why did Bibi have to do a fucking attack? I was so pissed off. I let him know. He has no fucking judgment. I let him know that. Source Barack Ravid. He literally doesn't talk like this. He just doesn't. He doesn't talk like this. Just making it up. Yes, Perkis. It's the same guy.
Of confrontations. Now, there's been some build up to this. It hasn't come out of nowhere. We know that moments of negotiation, moments that a deal is about to be signed between the US and Iran have proven to be moments of jeopardy here in Lebanon. In fact, on the 8th of April, when the first deal was signed, it was the deadliest day of the war so far. And speaking to people from Dahia, from the south, over the course of the day, they had expressed concern. They were worried. They felt like they knew that this was about to happen because there were two things that could happen with this deal in the offing and a ceasefire potentially being forced on Israel. One is that they would seek to push into new territory, which is what we've seen in the city of Nabatea. And the other is that potentially we would see a provocation, a strike on Beirut's southern suburbs that would then perhaps necessarily invite an Iranian response if they decide to stick to this red line that they have put out in public saying that Israel, if it strikes Dahia, there will be a response. And so now we wait to see whether this will potentially torpedo the entire regional arrangement.
How riveting. See, even Al Jazeera has to pretend that it's real. Even Al Jazeera, which by and large, Al Jazeera does a pretty good job reporting on this stuff, but they still can't engage with it to the fullest and truest extent, which is to say, like, this is literally all fake. It's all fake. They can't do it. It makes them seem unserious as well. Does that make sense? Chevron CEO Mike Wirth says the market may be able to absorb Strait of Hormuz disruption until early September. 3 factors about time. Continued inventory drawdowns, lower Chinese crude demand, limited tanker movements through Hormuz, mostly to China. Some vessels reportedly crossing at night with transponders switched off and support from the U.S. military. I've heard a lot of mixed reporting on this.
Turnarounds and maintenance activities deferred in facilities that allow supply to keep flowing. Some movements now through the Strait. So there's been a supply response, as you would expect, And there's been a demand response. China had been buying a lot of oil for their SPR. That has come down. You've seen certain measures, primarily in Asian economies, to reduce energy intensity of their...
You know, China hasn't drawn down on their strategic petroleum reserve, like, at all. It's crazy how ready they are for the big happening. It's just been a straight line. About 1.4 billion barrels of petroleum, larger than anyone else's, and it's been holding steady. How? Because they've reduced their demand, and they are getting ships out from Iran. Most of the tankers that have made their way out of the Strait of Hormuz since the war began have been headed straight to China.
Their activities. You've seen some substitution into coal and other things that have taken some pressure off of markets. And so both...
Serious question, Vosh. I'm wondering this in good faith, but why do you believe Trump's sometimes hostility to Netanyahu and his insistence on making a deal are fake? Didn't you previously say you don't believe Trump's capable of consciously lying? Trump isn't consciously lying here because Trump had nothing to do with that Axios article. It was completely made up by Barack Ravid. Barack Ravid completely faked it. There might have not even been a call between Trump and Netanyahu. Completely fake. He's literally been doing this non-stop for years, over and over again, the same thing. Barack Ravid, I mean. It's the same deal. Always, 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 over and over and over again. Also, Trump isn't actually hostile to Netanyahu like at all. We've all seen what it looks like when Trump is hostile to someone. He is so casually rude, even to people who are on his side, to people like Vance even. He attacks people like very freely, very, very willingly. He's done it to like every single world leader except Netanyahu. like genuinely, like think of every world leader Trump has had some kind of interaction with. Think of all the way, like allegedly Netanyahu is maliciously undermining Trump's authentic attempts at making a peace deal and has been doing so for years now. Don't you think Trump would demonstrate a little bit more antagonism than a bunch of unverified cussing out, like through one reporter, Barack Ravid? Like, don't you think the antagonism would demonstrate itself at all in public in a verifiable sense? Unfortunately, it is as simple as Trump understands where the money is, and the money is with, well, the money's not necessarily with Netanyahu, but Netanyahu represents a broad coalition of interests, which is where the money is at.
Supply and demand have responded, and I think the market has bought time. Now, the reality is inventories are a lot lower.
He served the chair for Netanyahu? Yeah, man. You ever seen him do this shit for anyone else, man? Crazy. Reuters on Sui Watch. I'm surprised there are any left.
Today, other than in China, where there still are very healthy inventories. But whether you look at products or you look at crude oil, we've moved from comfortable inventories under normal times to what would be, soon to be uncomfortable. And I think that's the real question is...
How is this compatible with narcissism? Look up how narcissists behave. Narcissists are notorious kiss asses. You're thinking of megalomania, which Trump also is to an extent, but people are complicated.
How much longer can these measures kind of ameliorate the risk? And at some point, they may not be able to.
How much longer does Chevron think? Is it a July, August story? Or?
It's probably in that time frame. And that's a little later than I would have said if you asked me 4 or 6 weeks.
Netanyahu's got all the Epstein files. It's not about the Epstein files. Listen, okay, the reason Trump is so deferential to Netanyahu is because he's always been like that to the people who he knows have real power over him. And the power here is not in the form of the Epstein files. Republicans don't care. The real power here is just that if Trump really broke with Netanyahu, it would fracture his base, and Trump knows it. It's that simple. It really is. Like, Trump's base is as powerful as it is because it's backed up not just by international capital, but also by the MIC and also evangelicals. Evangelicals are the strongest cultural base for Trump. If Trump broke with them, that would be it. He would fall apart in an instant. They represent so much power, culturally and monetarily. Trump is deferential to Netanyahu because he's scared of Netanyahu, and it's that simple. It's not. There's literally nothing else. To an extent, Trump also respects strongmen, dictators. Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, whatever else. But if anyone else had shown as much disrespect to Trump as Netanyahu has, allegedly, by continuing on this war in spite of what Trump wants, Trump would be like a mortal enemy of them now. It's because he's captured. Meanwhile, I should note, this is not specifically because of Trump. Any U.S. president would be in this position. Certainly a Republican. Democrats might not rely on evangelicals, but they do rely on the MIC. They do rely on, international capital. They do rely on corporate backing. They do rely on the sort of unwritten, unspoken, well, at least in public, unspoken agreement that at the end of the day, to serve the interests of international corporations means you have to be, if you draw the line at Israel, you're probably going to draw the line at a bunch of other things corporations want you to do. Does that make sense? Like, a president that opposes the genocide would probably also oppose, I don't know, Nestle buying up water rights. It's just, the evil tends to congregate.
Ago. And so particularly the reduced buying out of China is something that we didn't anticipate at the degree that we've seen now. And so I think that, along with now the fact that we are seeing some of these flows out through the Strait, probably have pushed that timeline out a little bit more. So I heard your earlier comment about the president's remarks about Labor Day, or kind of towards the end of the summer. The market may be able to kind of hold things together out into that time frame, but not forever.
How confident could an executive be that we are close to an agreement if the president has said it dozens of times since?
Does capital not contain the MIC, or are we separating out the market specifically as capital? I separate capital and MIC not because the MIC doesn't represent capital, but because they literally make their money in different ways. Like companies like Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, whatever else, they, for one, the value those companies hold, there might be a speculative bubble hovering above them, but the value of these companies is in the fact that they have enormous stockpiles of weapons, the technology and patents to make them, expertise, exclusive legal rights to produce them, and contacts with leaders all over the world. That is to say, the power that a company like Lockheed Martin represents would exist even if somehow it was privately bought and had absolutely no stake, or like a holding in the stock market. Even if there was no share of Lockheed Martin, it would still be an enormously powerful company. Whereas capital, like in the investment sense, is like the amorphous blob of investment capital that gets distributed to maximize gains, and this, I mean, ropes in a lot of people. I mean, there are people in the stock market who we wouldn't really think of as like being members of the bourgeoisie, right? But it's so in that sense, it's more of like an ephemeral blob of interests. But the MIC is like, when I say the MIC, I do mean like a relatively tight-knit group of companies, right? You have like tech surveillance companies like Palantir, to an extent companies like Anthropic, like AI companies are roped up in this as well because of their their proprietary technology and their contracts. Lockheed, whatever, Raytheon, Smith and Wesson, Northrop Grumman, whatever. These companies all have like a very tight-knit set of interests that exist outside the amorphous flow of capital. You can think of like the movement of capital almost like a natural force. It's driven by incentive structures. It would continue flowing the way that it does now, even if you like arrested Elon Musk or whatever. You could disrupt the market or the people in the market as much as you wanted, but as long as the rules and regulations are the same, capital will continue to flow as it does. It'll continue to pool at the top. Whereas with the MIC, we're talking about like potentially a relatively small group of people with coordinated interests. Can we arrest him for fun? It's not up to me. It's not up to me. You would know if it was up to me.
The conflict began at the end of February.
Yeah, I mean, I think the evidence would say you shouldn't fully believe that until you see the agreement signed and you see the actions begin to come into effect. Iran has a long history of being a kind of a patient and immovable negotiating force, and so this has been hard to call, and markets are hard to predict, wars are hard to predict. I think negotiations with adversaries like that or counterparties like that are also hard to predict. And so, and the market seems to be somewhat discounting these things. I mean, you mentioned yesterday, I think you used the term whiplash. The Karg Island statement didn't seem to send the market up the way it might have a month ago.
Yeah, they're losing their ability to do market manipulation. So, excuse me. So Chevron says we have till September. The tanks in Cushing, Oklahoma. Cushing? Is it? I assume it's Cushing. Oklahoma are hitting bottom. The oil market's about to hit a tipping point. Cool. Cushing, Oklahoma dubs itself the pipeline crossroads of the world. The tagline's emblazoned on a giant roadside sign fashioned out of pipes, the corner of Main Street and South Styles. It has a valve and everything. What a cutesy opening to this article, huh? AI could never. Cushing's current inventory is 21.6 million barrels. When Cushing's reserves get below 20 million, they effectively hit empty, scraping the bottom of the barrel of what is largely unusable sludge. That's a factor that I hadn't really thought about or considered. We talk about the operational minimum for oil reserve or petroleum reserves, but I hadn't really like figured that. Yeah. A tank of oil, not a barrel, but a tank, like a proper storage tank, is not ever drained to the bottom. Like, you don't do that. You add more to the top and you pull it from the top. A lot of the stuff that settles at the bottom is not what you want. You have to carefully configure refineries depending on what, mix or quality or sweetness of crude oil you're putting into it. And if you start digging from the bottom, you're starting to get like the grody stuff. It's like drinking to the bottom of Turkish coffee. I imagine there's a blending process. No. No. These tanks are massive. There's nothing mechanical there's no like agitator inside of them. You know what I mean? These enormous tanks don't they're not consistent from top to bottom. They're just big old tanks. When Cushing runs empty, strange things happen to the oil market. Unless the Strait of Hormuz opens soon, very soon, we're probably just weeks away from finding what it looks like. You're wrong, there's a little guy that stirs them. Oh. What do you mean by sweetness? That's one of the ways that you measure the grade of oil, sweet or like bitter. It's not bitter, right? It's like by the sweetness. They say that's why they say Texas sweet, right? Sweetness is sulfur content. Sweet or sour, that's it, not bitter, sour, thank you. Yeah, sour is the other. Creepy or wet? I assure you, sir. The reserve tanks at Cushing, Oklahoma are, they're good tanks. Oil stockpiles in the world's wealthiest nations are falling by 6.3 million barrels per day and are sitting at just 2.6 billion barrels. That's just 100 million above operational stress levels. Wow. We really got there, huh? We're just about there. It's been months now of like doomsaying about approaching the operational stress levels and then eventually the operational minimum, and we're just about there. I mean, we're just about there. Wow. As an accelerationist, how do we feel about this? I mean, I am happy that the economy might be put into a position where it has to engage with reality rather than just faking everything, I guess. I mean, I guess that's good. At this rate, the world's oil market could enter the danger zone within a month. Yeah, that makes sense. Dropping by 6.3 million barrels a day, sitting at 2.6 billion. Sheesh. We're raising alarm bells right now. Kowalski, the political consequences of closing off oil exports would be ruinous, and it would end up hurting us in the long run. I don't think that'd be a good idea.
Does that get to where you start saying, okay, we have a real problem here with the strategic petroleum reserve, not just reserves in general?
Well, we're raising alarm bells right now. We're at about 350 million barrels left in the strategic petroleum reserve. You have to have about 20% of that left.
Because oil is a global commodity. We might be net exporters, but for one, we would have to restructure how our refineries work and our whole global trading system in order to restructure our supply to be fitted for domestic use and production. But also, the rest of the world relies on our oil too. If we cut off oil to the rest of the world, that means oil gets even more scarce for them, which means A, we put a lot of political pressure on them to, pull away from us and towards China. And B, perhaps even more pressingly, the lack of oil there causes geopolitical problems that then come back and affect us with our prices. We don't produce everything domestically. We import a lot of stuff. If oil gets more expensive for the rest of the world, what does that do for the cost of food? The lack of fertilizer, higher cost of transporting it. There's no escaping the global economy at this point. The only country that's even close is North Korea, and even North Korea's domestic production is heavily influenced by Chinese support. So for everyone else, you do have to pay attention to the rest of the world.
For it to be operational, for our system to operate. So we're getting to levels where we're starting to be concerned. I will say, though, you're starting to see production increase, not just in the United States, but in other places as well. We're seeing some green shoots in the oil patch. Rig counts have been going up consistently week on week. You're seeing more production, potential production in Alaska, in the Permian Basin, and in other parts of the United States, as well as a consequence of higher prices. But consumers should be very concerned that as inventories continue to draw down, I'll give you a great example of this. We've already seen a draw of gasoline inventories of 38 million barrels. That is almost the entire amount of the inventory that we use in the summer driving season. So we're starting to get very concerned. The only thing that we can do in the short term to fix this problem is to get the Strait open as quickly as possible.
Good luck with that, bucko. Good luck with that. The other thing you could do is allow the market to rationally price these resources and start, like let gas just be $8 a gallon. But they don't want to do that. That wouldn't make people happy. Unheard of inventory levels are reaching a breaking point, said Neil Chapman, Senior Vice President of ExxonMobil, at a conference hosted by Bernstein in New York on May 28th. I think we're 2 months away from Trump legalizing whaling for oil. Maybe. Maybe that's our way out of it, yeah. That's more or less what's happening in Russia. Some places there are just straight up out of oil gas for the car. Yeah, I don't know if the American consumers are quite ready for like a Russian level of material deprivation. I don't think we have the grit for it. Americans don't have the grit to get drunk on like tank fuel. There's a reason they keep killing themselves over there. On the plus side, the Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ are all doing great. You see Charlie Kirk has a sister and apparently a Bernie supporter. First ever non-AI Kirkification. Hey, she has my glasses. Kind of. I mean, obviously she looks better than me. Well, you put a bit of a fuzzy filter on me, you never know. Ooh, Charlie Kirk's sister. Charlene Kirk. It is crazy, and again, phrenology believers taking another point, that Charlie Kirk is ugly as sin and she's beautiful. I'm telling you. Bosch after HRT. You wish. I can't unsee the Kirkener, sorry. I think you might be mentally ill. They really don't look alike. Like, at all. I cannot see a single feature they have in common. Maybe their nose shape? They both have a relatively rounded nose bridge. Apart from their eyes, well, no, because his eyes are so small. He has the small face. She doesn't have a small face. Their lips are different. Their philtrums are similar. Their nose is similar. Their eye shapes are similar, but hers are positioned normally on the face, whereas his whole face is shrunk. Their foreheads are completely different. Hair is completely different. They have empty, soulless eyes. Really? I feel like you're crazy. That's empty, soulless. You're just saying shit. You're making a mockery of the fine and noble art of phrenology. You're just saying stuff. It's true. We would need to see her do an open mouth smile to really know if they have any similarities. Damn, those really are your glasses? They're close. I mean, they have like the roughly octagonal shape.